Welcome back, ghouls and goblins. I hope you're having a magical day. Thank you for taking the time to support the channel. Looking at the top 10 uncommon cards within Phyrexia, all will be one, according to this guy right here. In no specific order, these cards are phenomenal. Holy Toledos. Not only the uncommons, which we're looking at today, but also the commons, which we looked at in our last video. They're amazing. The support for the budget and free-to-play individuals within this set is very high. And I know that the limited players, the drafters, are going to be having a lot of fun with it as well. So let's get things started with our first card, the Armored Scrap Gorger. 1 generic, 1 green, 2 mana in total, a 0/3 creature, Phyrexian Beast. Armored Scrap Gorger gets +3/+0 as long as it has 3 or more oil counters on it. Now, an oil counter is a mechanic that is very pushed right now, and I think will definitely, be worth its weight in oil within Limited, and as well as some of these free-to-play decks. You're tapping it to add 1 mana of any color, and when it becomes tapped, you actually get to exile a card from a graveyard and put an oil counter on it. So it can, through multiple taps, which is only 3, not a lot, be a 3/3 for 2 mana that not only taps for mana, but can also control your opponent's graveyard. Right? So there's a lot of value here, stacking up layer by layer. Proliferate is also, a mechanic that we're going to see very heavily played here. So you may not even have to tap it 3 times for the 3 oil counters. Tap it once, get 1, and then proliferate the other 2. And, I think that this is an absolute phenomenal card. It's a Phyrexian as well, so maybe we can see some support here. And the mana of any color is ridiculous. So moving on now to our second card, the Scheming Aspirant. 2 mana here as well, 1 generic, 1 black, or Swamp. It's a creature, Phyrexian Advisor, 1 power, 3 toughness. Whenever you proliferate, each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Okay, so that's ridiculous. You can proliferate multiple times a turn, and the support for it is, it's there. Each color can proliferate. There's multiple proliferate cards within each color. And the ones, that we're really eyeing up are of fairly high value here as well. Counters, +1/+1, loyalty counters, poison counters. So there is a lot to do with the proliferate right now. Not to mention the shield counters as well, right? So, I do think that in itself is going to be really good. And now that you're being rewarded for proliferating, doing 2 damage, gaining 2 life with a non-legendary that you can stack up. Oh, my lord, right? Moving on to Tyvar's Stand. For 1 green +X at instant speed, target creature you control gets +X/+X, gains hexproof and indestructible until the end of turn. I really like this, so, you're attacking, your opponent tries to remove it because they don't want to take the damage, and not only do you protect your creature from their removal, but now you apply additional pressure, sink your mana into it because they tapped out, and instead of, getting in for X damage, you're getting in for X damage plus this new X. I don't know what your attacker would be, right? So, just think of getting in 4 or 5 extra damage. Once your opponent's tapped out, you're safe to do so, and you protected your creature. It seems all right to me. Moving on. Tainted Observer. 3 mana, 1 generic, 1 green, 1 blue. This is a Simic colored card. A 2/3 Phyrexian bird with flying. It also has Toxic 1. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, proliferate. Yeah. So a really easy way to proliferate potentially multiple times each turn if your mana curve is low. You've got 4 mana, you play a 1-drop, proliferate, you play another drop, proliferate. Very, very, very nice. And again, non-legendary that can stack. Moving on, Sheoldred's Etiquette. 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 swamp, or black at instant speed. Choose one of these 3. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. Each opponent sacrifices a creature token. Each opponent sacrifices a planeswalker, forcing the sacrifice on any way you like, which is phenomenal. Of course, unless they have multiples of each of those types, and then they can still choose between them. But it really does make it a lot easier to direct rather than just sacking a 1/1 to fulfill it. It's beautiful. This with Invoke Despair. No, it's fine. Invoke Despair is definitely not a budget card, but you can kind of see right now within the new cards that are coming out, not only Invoke Despair, but the Phyrexian Obliterator, the Phyrexian Vindicator, the white version that we've seen. All of the other Phyrexians that gain indestructible counters on them, right? They have the ability to pay the Phyrexian mana to get that indestructible counter. Well, it's going to do no good when you self-sacrifice it, right? So Exile is really good, Sacrifice really good, and this is very easily directed at the appropriate thing, and it's an uncommon, so it's phenomenal, right? Moving on, we have the Char Forger. 3 mana, 1 generic, 1 swamp, 1 mountain. This is a Rakdos creature, Phyrexian Beast, a 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature token. And whenever another creature or artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put an oil counter on the Char Forger. Remove 3 counters from the Char Forger, exile the top card of your library, and you may play it this turn. Not the worst. Definitely added card advantage to any match is nice. It's a 2/3 for 3 that makes an additional 1/1, not too shabby. And then, of course, like I said, if it sticks around, maybe you're proliferating as well. You can get some additional value from your deck. Drowning Ichor for 2, 1 generic, 1 swamp, sorcery speed. Target creature gets -4/-4 until the end of turn. Proliferate. Again, this is nice. It's going to get through indestructible, and the proliferate is very, very good as well. Nice mana value. The fact that you're getting a -4/-4 for 2 is, what you'd expect at sorcery speed. Maybe -3/-3 at instant speed, right? But then you're also getting that proliferate onto it for free, kind of like Volt Surge, where it's like, yeah, I want more proliferate in my deck, but I don't want to have cards that are just focused on that, because that does take a lot of value out, because out of my 60 cards, now some of them are these proliferate cards. And instead of having to do that, we're just kind of attaching that value to a card that we'd already want to have for a little bit more value, but still keeping our card base where it needs to be. Reject Imperfection. 3 mana, 1 generic, double blue or island at instant speed. Counter target spell. If that spell was 3 or less in mana value, proliferate. Oh yeah. Instant speed, counter for 3. That's what we would expect. If its mana value was 3 or less, if you're countering on curve or at reduced tempo, if you're spending 3 mana to counter 2 mana, that's not great. But you get to proliferate, and that's phenomenal. +1/+1 counters on creatures. Oh, okay, whatever. The poison counters getting a little bit better. Loyalty counters. Oh yeah. This card is definitely going to see play in my eyes, to be putting multiple counters on planeswalkers at a time while countering your spell. Oh no, right? This is a dirty, dirty card. Speaking of dirty cards, minor misstep. Oh, just a minor misstep. For 1 mana, a blue source or island at instant speed, counter target spell with mana value 1 or less. Okay, so this is really, really good because it's a hard counter, right? It's not unless they pay 2. However, it does become quite worthless in the mid game unless you can catch them off guard. Fantastic, I believe, in the sideboard. as then you can identify the situation to use it in. It will also allow you to stay on curve with your opponent without having to Fading Hope. Okay, so lots of the times, the blue deck goes second, and they have to Fading Hope that first creature that you play, or else you'll just get beat down by that creature. Now they no longer have to do that. They have the potential for a permanent solution, which I think is good. We're going to have to wait and see how reliable this card is in the current meta. This potentially is a card that sees play in other formats, I think. Again, I'm not an expert on that, but it just seems good. Speaking of things that just seem good, the Voidwing hybrid for 2. Dimir colors, 1 blue, 1 black, a island and swamp. Creature, Phyrexian bat with flying and toxic 1. When you proliferate, return the Voidwing hybrid from your graveyard to your hand. A little bit of recursion doesn't hurt either. The fact that it's a 2/1 with flying is nice, and has toxic, not too shabby at all. So to recap, we have the Armored Scrap Gorger. This is a 3/3 mana rock, apparently. We have the Scheming Aspirant, which is going to supply you with a ton of life and deal a bunch of damage to your opponent. Tyvar's Last Stand, increasing your damage output while protecting your own creature. The Tainted Observer, applying the toxic to your opponent, flying with the evasion, which is nice, and then allowing you to proliferate your creatures, your planeswalkers, those poison counters you put on your opponent. We love it. Shoulder's Etiquette, really, really good removal at instant speed. Charforger, it's good value. 2 bodies, 3 mana, 1 card. Plus, you can get some oil counters to proliferate, and then you can draw cards as well. Drown in Ichor, again, I really, really like this one. The -4/-4 proliferate, nice removal. Reject Imperfection, definitely gonna be a problem here. Minor Misstep, I can't wait to see this card in action to see how viable it is. And then, like I said, that Voidwing with the recursion, really, really nice as well. Those were the top 10 uncommon cards for Phyrexia. All will be won by yours truly. Now, the early access event will be on February 2nd and 3rd. So be sure to, pay attention to all of your favorite streamers and content creators, as we'll be showcasing the set before it comes out. And then we have the digital release within Arena, I believe, on February 7th, which is pretty cool as well. So we'll be collecting the set, trying out new decks together, which is exciting. And I cannot wait. This looks like a lot of fun. I'm a little worried, to be honest, but excited. I think those two are so nervousness and excitement are like, I think it just depends on whether you're smiling or not, right? Keep the smile, HGG. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, if you missed the common portion that we did before this, check it out. And then in the next video, we're doing the rares and then the mythics finally in the one after that. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel to support. You can also become a YouTube member. And I'll see you all soon in the next.